Hello, two people in the chat. It's Jay here again to tell us about his thoughts about what do you want to talk about, Jay?
Well, I haven't spoke to you for quite a while.
I know you said we were trash and you were going to leave the trash to be trashy. I know you.
Hang on 2 seconds. I've just got something. I've got your voice coming out my iPad, which is double clear. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is low bottom
But
stuff.
now you're back and you have something to tell us.
No, I mean, I didn't.
You don't have anything to tell us?
You can't, woman, calm down.
I'm
take
calm.
a breath.
I'm calm.
Well,
I'm just sort of, clarifying what you want to say, and I hope it's worthwhile after, bouncing out of the community, telling us that we are all trash, and now you're back again. And you have something to tell us, and we're waiting with bated breath to hear what you have to tell us about,
who's we? I mean, who is we? You and who
else? Well, anyone who might want to listen.
Okay, well, I'm not going to let you rush me and bully me, which is what you used to do, so you can give that one up for a start. I think the last time we spoke was it 4 months ago, maybe, or something?
I don't recall.
Something like that.
Do you actually have anything to tell us?
Well, tell you, I don't tell you anything. What I was going to say, but you keep interrupting me, and there's not a lot happened, I think, apart from obviously this virus stuff that's gone on, which has sent everything particularly crazy. I find it interesting that the economy and the disaster that seems to be going around the country is what Brexit was supposed to happen. Brexit was supposed to cause all this. Do you remember?
Well, we wanted Brexit. We were told that bad stuff would happen if we got Brexit. Mm-hmm. But the virus has intervened, and I think people are no longer talking about Brexit. They're just talking about COVID-19. And that affects the whole world. And they think Western civilization might end Western civilization as we know it, simply because it affects more than the European Union.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is worldwide, isn't it? I don't really follow it. I looked at it at the start, but you know me, I'm kind of, I'm quite conscious of keeping my conscience clear. So I'm not really looking at it and following it and going crazy on it. But I noticed you've done some streams on it 2 days ago. Oh, and thank you for slowing down as well and being able to have a conversation. It's much better. A couple of days ago, through basically being housebound, I mean, I'm still going out and doing bits of stuff, but I looked at what you were up to and I saw you've done some streams on stuff, and then I listened to 1 or 2 bits, and then, I think I came on the other night in the chat, but I'm surprised how many people are not here. Like, everybody's kind of run away. I mean, I did predict that, if you remember. I did say that it'll eat itself up from the inside, and I think that's happened.
Well, I think the alt-right still exists. The grievances of people who identify themselves as alt-right have not disappeared magically because of Brexit or COVID, and I guess YouTube have done something to the algorithms.
So what is it? Is everybody's gone? Is everybody's
I mean, well, why don't you just tell us what you want to tell us instead of worrying if anybody's watching us?
No, I'm not worried if anybody's watching.
Well, then why don't you just, tell us what you want to tell us?
Well, I've come on to talk with you, basically.
I'm here to be talked to.
Okay. What's been happening today? You seem in a really irate.
I'm not irate. I really kind of want you to tell us what you have to say instead of, going round the houses and, you said you had some topics you wanted to talk about. Do you want to discuss them now?
Well, you asked me, but I did get a letter from my friend Mike, which I sent to you. Which did you read it?
Yes, I did.
Do you want to read it out now, or should I?
You read it because it's kind of your thing. So yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, and that'll be an opportunity for you to take a deep breath. Speaking of which, it looks as though maybe this whole corona pandemic is also a sign from heaven, in which the folly of man, multiculturalism, and mammonism is finally getting shaken. Men thought they could build their own monument to themselves with the bricks of homosexuality, feminism, materialism, globalism, the military-industrial war complex, the deviant drug scene, political corruption, subversive and degenerate culture, the idolatry of big tech, etc., etc. So what do you take from that he's saying?
Well,
Hello?
it's a kind of preliminary. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can't you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you. Yeah, good.
Oh,
Good.
right. No, you said hello. So, well, he hasn't really got into his stride yet. He's saying that, the fact that we've got this means we've got, something is wrong. This could be a sign from God to punish us for all the bad things we've been doing, right?
Yeah,
that's what it's leading up to.
Yeah, which is basically
I mean, speaking of which, suggests that there's an earlier paragraph that you haven't read.
Well, I'm just starting from here because that was what he asked me to do in conversation after. But I take it what he's saying, and I actually sent it to Elizabeth as well this morning, who agreed with it wholeheartedly, which is quite interesting. That man has been moving further and further away from God, or let's just say from common sense, from decent living, and eventually there will be like consequences, and even if that does come from man, if this thing is man-made or created by the Chinese or whatever, or if it's a natural thing, it doesn't really matter, because according to Mike, God's in charge of the whole thing, so it will happen. But I guess that he nails it pretty well there when he talks about the bricks of homosexuality, feminism, materialism, globalism, the military-industrial war complex, the deviant drug scene, political corruption, subversive and degenerate culture, the idolatry of big tech. I mean, is there anything missing from there, from the list
well, well, I mean, we can sort of take it as that, our sins have provoked this plague.
Yeah, and with all of that stuff going on, the solutions that we have, i.e. become popular on Facebook or YouTube or Tinder or whatever, or it doesn't really work for people. So I think there's the suicide rates are incredibly high. Teenagers are lost. Whereas I sound like an old man, but in the old days it was stuff that was worthwhile. These days it's just not talked about. Like work hard at school or do your homework, go for a walk or whatever. I mean, there's silly examples. So. Yeah, but anyway, I'll continue on with Mike's. He said, hopefully, like the account in Genesis, our modern day Tower of Babel will be demolished and an opportunity to rebuild, with the help of God, might manifest. Mike said, I am a sinner in need of God's mercy myself, so I am in no position to judge anyone, but clearly God's righteous wrath is vindicated yet again and long overdue. Paul's letter to the Romans is an excellent part of the good book to read, particularly chapters 1 and 2 concerning our current state. Okay, so let me ask you some questions. Is that allowed? Can you handle that?
Sure. I was going to ask you if you read Paul's letter to the Romans.
No, I'm not. I haven't. I should do. I should have read it before I came on here, to be honest, but I didn't. So do you know what it is or what the letters are?
He's basically telling the Romans what to do. But I guess there's no point talking about it if nobody has read it and nobody, you know. So,
Yeah.
did you have a question for me?
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good now that you've calmed down.
I wasn't not calm.
Okay. When he talks about our modern day Tower of Babel will be demolished and an opportunity to rebuild with the help of God might manifest. So say, for example, if this virus, really cleans most things out, and it might, who knows, then it was quite interesting to think about rebuilding everything, because the powers that be might be taken away. So it would be like starting again, wouldn't it, with the obvious experience and knowledge that we've had.
Well, we have to first define what we mean by the Tower of Babel. What do you think it means?
Well, that's the pile of crap. I mean, I understand the Tower of Babel or Babel, whatever it is just rubbish stuff. It's not good. Is that correct?
I think, I suppose that there'll be different interpretations of it. The Tower of Babel was something that, taken literally, was a tower built by people who thought they could get to God by continuing to build it. But and then I think in the end they couldn't understand each other and it fell down, or it didn't work out. I mean, we can look it up and read it and because I think one of the problems we have is that we talk about words, we think we know what it means, and we don't. So it's kind of back to first principles when we think like, okay, there's a word, we're talking about it. Have we got the right definition of it? Because I think often people just sort of carry on merrily without defining terms. So Tower of Babel, which maybe everyone is a bit vague about, is mentioned first in Genesis, the first book of the Old Testament, the beginning of the Bible, and what does it say? It's a structure built in the land of Shinar in Babylonia. I guess that Babel probably has some reference to Babylon. Sometime after the deluge, i.e., after the flood. The story of its construction, given in Genesis, appears to be an attempt to explain the existence of diverse human languages. According to Genesis, the Babylonians wanted to make a name for themselves by building a mighty city and a tower with its top in the heavens. God disrupted the work by so confusing the language of the workers that they could no longer understand one another. The city was never completed and the people were dispersed over the face of the earth. The myth may have been inspired by the Babylonian Tower Temple north of the Marduk Temple, which in Babylonian was called Babilu, Gate of God. The similarity in pronunciation of Babel led to the play on words in Genesis. Therefore, its name was called Babel because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. So I think it's
I get that. I mean, it's probably not a real story. I mean, like most of the Bible, it's just an
allegory or a metaphor.
Allegory, yeah. But when you think of trying to build something to enter the kingdom of heaven or reach God, then you can do that within yourself, within your consciousness. That's what Jesus spoke about in the sermon. So some lunatics who are going to build a brick tower in the hope of climbing the stairs or climbing the mountain, so to speak. It's just these days people do that by getting a Ferrari, getting a Porsche, getting money, worshipping and idolizing stuff that doesn't really work. So that is like building a tower, building fake eyelashes. It's the same thing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, people talk about all these countries in the Middle East building ever higher buildings. But I think what is relevant to us is how we use language, because I find that a lot of people use words in a way that is confusing, and then when you challenge them, they refuse to concede, saying, "Oh, I'm going to use words exactly the way I please, and you can't challenge me." And we can't agree on axioms, so we can't debate, and therefore goodbye, and that kind of thing. And certain people are like that, and a few debates in the between JF and Kurt Doolittle, as well as JF and Stefan Molyneux, are a bit like that. They can't even agree on the meaning of words, and that is also a problem. And Confucius, I think, many centuries ago, dealt with it by talking about the rectification of names, and he was saying that basically words need to be defined properly, used accurately, or everything will turn out wrong. So,
yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, what do you think of my language and English skills?
Well, I think you have a way of using words like "my religion is," whatever, and I remember, arguing with you about it and saying it can't be religion because one person believing in a set of ideas, in a belief doesn't make it a religion. And I remember that you didn't seem to much care, just carried on saying that whatever it is that you believe is a religion. And I say, no, a religion has to be believed in by at least a group of people.
Yeah, but then I could see
it's these sort of definitional things that may cause problems.
So getting back to the Tower of Babel, is it Babel or Babel, or is it both?
I pronounce it Babel, but other people seem to have a different idea.
Okay, well, let's call it Babel. So, let me just thank you for giving me the freedom to speak as well. It's quite decent of you. You and I have got the body that we've created, haven't we? At our ripe old middle age, we've both got the body that we
create ourselves, did we?
Well, from the age of, let's just say, 10 or 15 or 20, when we had free will, we've got what we've created, the amount of money we've got, we've created, where we live. It's what we've built up.
Acquired, maybe acquired would be a better word, because we didn't create ourselves, and I guess even children can have free will in that they can be disobedient.
Yeah, but like my skills on the golf course are what I might have acquired.
What you have acquired yourself. You played golf,
so
practiced, got better at it.
Well, worse recently, but that's another story. But so one of the most frightening things that I read a few years ago was that, and it's from Jesus again, but basically everything that you've got around you is what you've created. Be in no delusion that anything else has put them there. You are in this situation, good, bad, or indifferent, because you've put yourself in it. And that's when I realized that you can change stuff, but you must change it within. You must so this Babel Tower, you're not going to really change anything from building anything on the outside. And it came crashing down. And relating to the topic, the whole world over. I mean, we spoke about it for ages. We spoke about it for how many streams, and
Did we talk about the Tower of Babel? I thought we kind of agreed about the way we use language and how it's not helpful to be vague about or inaccurate about our use of words.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about that, but we spoke about how all the world over, in virtually every country, the same. I used to say that there's a poisonous spray being sprayed upon the world. People are acting against their own interests. That people are insane. The extent to which feminism has gone works against women. It's insane, and people
Well,
cheer it.
our governments have allowed it, and therefore it should, have a discussion about whether it's doing people any good. But nobody is talking about these things except us, and nobody listens to us because we are trash, and you abandoned us for a few months. So,
well, we can talk about that later if you want. I mean, I don't have a problem.
no,
with that.
I'm just pointing out that we are aware of who we are, aren't we? Or we should be. We should be, because obviously nobody cares what we think, do they?
Well, I don't know. I think the people on here maybe do, but over time, I think if you keep saying the same stuff, which I guess you have to, because you're quite strong within what you think and your principles and stuff. So, but I credit to you for that. When I wrote that scathing piece on the YouTube channel yesterday, I give you credit where credit's due, and I give you criticism where I think it's due as well. And I did say that.
Can we go back to the Tower of Babel, please?
Yeah,
I really would like to talk about the things we're supposed to be talking about.
You don't want me to go and that other stuff, do you? Yeah, fine. So
we can talk about that any other time, but really, let's not do the same old trash again. Okay.
So building this tower is a worthless pursuit. It's almost like an egocentric, self-seeking. Look at me! I'm on top of the tower. I'm this. I'm that.
No, but the Tower of Babel is not about look at me. We've already agreed that it's a grandiose attempt by these Babylonians to build a tower to reach God, and then the other option is people not understanding each other because of the crazy way that they use language.
Yeah, but a grandiose attempt is like, look at me. I mean, it doesn't work. And then what's happened recently?
That's obviously failed. But I mean, the Tower of Babel is not using words properly. I mean, there are no attempts to build, a city to reach, a building to reach God. So we can abandon that and talk about the real thing, about how certain people use language in a vague and inaccurate way, maybe to lie about their intentions, to obscure what they mean.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've lied to you. I don't know if you've lied to me, but would you agree as well that instead of building a tower, in the last 30 years, people have been digging in a ditch. People have been digging deeper into a hole, and governments have been cheering them on, saying, "Go on, see how low you can go."
I can't think of any particular examples at the moment of what you just said, but I'm talking about the way people use language in a confusing way when their meaning. They didn't get the meaning right in the first place about maybe religion, because it's like they think that what they believe is a religion when in fact it's not a religion, it's only a personal belief, and then also the debates in the alt-right between Kurt Doolittle and JF and Stefan Molyneux and JF, and they never get any further simply because they couldn't agree on the definition of a particular word. Or maybe they asked themselves the wrong question, maybe. Did you listen to any of the JF debates?
No. I mean, this is where if we'd been a little bit more civilized at the start, we could have come at this from a more adult, mature approach, as opposed to like squawking away at me. If I can just have 30 seconds now, that I've had 4 months or whatever it is of absolutely no YouTube in this area, not Luke Ford or your stuff or whatever. I mean, I've had an absolute break from it, and I started looking a couple of days ago, and then that's it. So no, I don't know what's kind of gone on. I know that Kevin's doing really well on his own stream because Luke got rid of him. I think when Luke got rid of Kevin, that's when I around that time I just sort of had enough of it. So from then to now, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's gone on.
What made you come back? What made you feel you have, want to have anything more to do with us?
Well, it's not us, it's you. I mean, I've never been us. I've never been a fighter for the cause. I've never been a flag waver or an activist. I mean, I said that all the time.
Well, you were into Tommy Robinson and, all that
never.
kind of
No, I mean,
stuff.
But have you ever been into Tommy Robinson?
Well, I take an interest in what he. I
Yeah,
took
but
an interest in what he did.
Yeah, but you went on a Tommy Robinson march, didn't you?
It was going on. You were there. I was there. A friend of yours was. No. Did you actually want to say anything, or did you just want to gossip about? I mean, it's okay. I don't mind, but if we were talking about the Tower of Babel, can we? Did you want to talk about what your friend Mike said, or
yeah, no. I think it's interesting. I'd like to get your take on the stuff. So, well, I was talking about the tower, but then you started going on about the correct use of words and debate.
This is my understanding of what the Tower of Babel is about. That God so confused the people trying to build the tower that in the end, because they couldn't understand each other, they abandoned the project.
Yes, I hear your point now. Do you hear my point where people these days, instead of building a tower, they will try to amass great fortunes or other false idols as such?
Well, people always want wealth. There's nothing particularly forbidden about that. But what has this to do with the tower? Have we finished talking about the Tower of Babel now?
No, because I don't think you understand the spiritual concept of the tower. And you spoke to me about the correct use of words and language. So I'm trying to talk to you about because you take everything literally. You've always done that. And that's an asset if you're in a court of law. But you're not. You're talking to Uncle Jay. So, and my thing is we are completely different. As in, I try to explain the spiritual angle of this tower. You don't need to build a tower. You just need to sit still and connect to God or pray or meditate or whatever. And that's the folly of man will continue to build towers, amass aeroplanes, fame, fortune, and wealth and women, and it doesn't work. And it's possible, and I don't know the answer, but it's possible that this whole virus thing is the consequences of man being a fucking idiot, which basically is what Mike was saying.
Well, he's saying that the virus is a plague sent to plague us because of our sins, right? And obviously, a lot of people already think that. A lot of religious people who believe in God think that.
Oh, interesting. Is there anybody on Mizrahi or any of them lot or talking about this, or what's their opinions? Have you looked?
Mizrahi said, well, it's just because of our sin.
Wow. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that somehow it's just easier to think of it in that way rather than, did the Americans do it to the Chinese? Did the Chinese do it to the Americans? It's like, well, it doesn't even matter, even if the conspiracy theories were true, because it's here now. It's all over the world. So there's no point, pointing the finger at each other. We need, as different countries, to decide what to do for the best. And I don't think we've quite worked that out yet.
Spoke to my friend yesterday, and she's a fairly highly qualified doctor in hospitals. And she said, and I've seen something about this online from a scientist, that these viruses are virtually impossible to create.
I don't think anyone created it. I mean, it just happens. I mean, you talk to doctors and they say, well, this sort of thing happens once every century anyway, to give us to thin our numbers and give us a good clear out. which is why
Yeah.
plague is a generic term that, you know, doesn't even need a sort of special name like COVID-19. It's basically, it happens over the ages. It has been known to happen.
So if that is the case, then obviously you've got contempt for Western governments and the world and all stuff like that. So,
well, everyone's got it. The Chinese have got it. So I'm not going to say.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly not saying it's only Western governments who, you know, it's like, okay, it came from somewhere, but in a way it doesn't matter because, you know, even the plague came from Central Asia. And even the Spanish flu, people are not quite clear really where it came from. It was just, you know, talked about in Spain a lot because it happened in 1918. And obviously the countries at war with each other in Europe were not talking about it because they didn't want to demoralize their populations even further. But Spain, who was neutral, you know, had a press that could report it. So when the story became big, they thought they called it the Spanish flu. But then, you know, we later discovered that the first person to have got it came from Kansas in America. So we don't really know, and perhaps it doesn't really matter because we will never really know. And all we know is that these things happen, you know, at every 100 years or so. So, and of course, you know, what is most on people's mind is what to do about it, how to think about it, how we can, you know, keep ourselves cheerful and sane, and, you know, whatever, what we should do for the best to get through this time. And what if we don't get through? That kind of thing. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm starting to enjoy the conversation. Thank you for involving me. No, I think that's a fantastic point you made about staying sane and happy while it's going on. I certainly have done that and beyond, to the point of a few people are possibly annoyed by me that how can you possibly be like normal and happy when this is going on? And from communicating with a friend today who we both know, she was quite happy that it, you know, sort of sat at home watching it all go on, laughing. But for myself, it won't beat me. I mean, it might get in my body, it might kill me, but it won't beat me, in a sense that I won't like collapse with my spirit, my life, my mind. It won't destroy me. But anyway, I'm pretty certain I've had it about a month ago, 3 weeks ago or something.
You had a cold?
No, I spent about 2.5 days in bed. I was utterly wiped out. Like, I've had colds, I've had flus, I've had viruses and stuff, but this was like something I've not had before. Temperature, wiped out, no sneezing, no blowing my nose. And I was saying to people, like, what the F's going on? I've got a massive cold flu without the symptoms. And headaches as well, dehydration. But after 3 days, I was kind of back to my best. So I may have had it, I may not. I think it's possible. But the point you made about, if you watch Sky News or the BBC or go online and you watch all of this stuff, it's quite similar to watching all of our streams that we've been doing over the years. Most of it is just depressing and shit and bad for the conscience. So what you put in your mind is how you are. You build up your own conscience and your emotions and stuff. So I, for one, don't sit there going, oh, there's 1,100 people died in Libya and now there's 1,000 in New Zealand. Oh God, and let's see if we can get up to 100. That, you know, and look at the ambulances. My, their bodies must smell. And I don't do all of that. I'm aware of what's going on, but it's kind of more important for me in the morning when I wake up to think, where's my golf clubs? Not literally, but that's the respect I give this disease or this like goings on. The human reaction to it is laughable. I know it's serious, of course, but one of my points of view, and this is what Mike, if I go into Mike's next paragraph, Mike said, I understand your decision, obviously, Jay, my decision. I understand your decision to discuss your thoughts on what is behind the pandemic. Everyone is reticent to express their theories and thoughts because we have become so atomized and disconnected from one another, and we don't know if one's worldview will be met with agreement or scorn. I've got a view on this stuff which I don't really say in public, in that oh, and I'll tell you who I listened to today, which said exactly the same as me. Dr. Phil. Do you know who Dr. Phil is?
It rings a bell.
American therapist, talk show host.
What did he say?
He said that the damage that people's response to this and the fear and the depression will cause more deaths and problems than the actual virus itself.
Oh, yes.
I saw a stat that over 10,000 people had committed suicide from the last recession, whenever that was as well. So people, I mean, I went to a supermarket a few days ago and I left because the energy in there was like a funeral. I've been to funerals before, but this was like walking the plank. And I think the response to this this topic is like kind of laughable, the way that the hysteria is going on. Don't you agree? I noticed you've kept calm and carried on, and you were saying as much that, just so I'm with you on that. So at last, after 38 minutes, we've probably agreed on something.
Well, I favoured from the beginning adopting the herd immunity strategy. So, I haven't changed my mind really.
Yeah, I mean, there was one guy who said, and I was laughing and thinking of you. He said, we've got 68 million people in the country, 68 down to 66. What difference does it make?
Well, I made that little joke, and I offended one of my Facebook friends who was so appalled about it. But that, well, I invited him to come on the stream and tell me exactly why I am so wrong. But he's still thinking about it.
Well, let's look at it this way. I mean, if, for example, this shutdown or lockdown, and I think they're going to pull another one on Tuesday. They've already given us we will go further if need be. It sounds like a pre-warning. So if it means that you're not allowed out your house except to get food or whatever, or whatever it is, if they continue this, and a government official said today it's going to go until June at least, which is only 5 weeks away? April? No, 9 weeks away. April, May. Yeah. 50% of businesses could be closed down, which means mass unemployment. Is there money for all the unemployment benefit? You're looking at mob rule. Are there enough police? So the consequences of closing everything down and almost working with the virus. Maybe the virus is laughing, just thinking we're going to close you down anyway, So if we actually close everything down for 7 months, what will be left?
There'll be nothing left. I mean, the harvest won't be crops won't be harvested. So it's crazy. So it should always have been keep calm and carry on. And so I like to think that in theory, Boris could say that was all wrong. Let's go back to normal. And whoever falls, they'll fall, and we'll dispose of him or her in a dignified, quiet, and efficient way. I mean, that's the only attitude to take, isn't it? I mean, rather than all be hiding behind our sofas and under our beds, hoping.
No, I think I think there's it's valid. I think it's a valid argument what you've got, I don't think it's a sound argument, because we don't know. It's just an opinion. But I know that from the other night, Conops, I think, was saying to you that you're like a beast or you're barbaric for thinking such things. But maybe, but at the same time, by closing everything down and
we're doing damage, long-term damage to our economy. If everything slows down, it will be very hard to get it going again. That is the trouble.
Yeah, I mean,
if you stop everything, there's this sort of inertia, this physical inertia, and then people will become scared to go out or whatever. They're not quite sure. So really, you shouldn't be slowing down, because it's like you're going up a hill. I mean, this is my driving lesson, I remember, and going up a hill, and I kind of slowed down, and the instructor was pretty annoyed at me, because it means sliding down the hill and having to start again, and it will actually be use up more energy starting from doing a hill start, right?
It's a great example. A better one is cycling. If you're cycling up a hill and your chain
you
comes
really
off,
have to get over the brow of it, before you slow down, right? Or you just slide back down again. You'll have to keep going, So that's the analogy, and it's like they're not listening. They don't care. I don't know what the hell they're doing. And then you think, oh, so Boris is self-isolating. So, what's he doing while he's self-isolating? Well, will anything he says be taken seriously? Because, obviously, face-to-face, we will behave it to each other in a different way. Maybe we'll be more polite. Maybe we'll just be more engaged. But, if you can't even see me, I might be, I don't know, asleep or something while you're yakking away, and nothing will be, I would, you don't know. So of course it's important to communicate every possible thing you want to communicate when there's so much to communicate.
Yeah, I can see your point of view. I can see what Conops is saying as well. The Labour
is afraid to die, and I understand that, because he's an atheist, and he wants me to sort of he wants his women to fuss over him and overreact and say, oh, poor, I'll pull out all the stops to make sure it's.
But you do fuss over him and overreact. I mean, you do that.
I don't fuss over him.
Yes, you do. You like him.
In what way do I fuss over him?
Well, you keep talking to him and you get on great with him.
Yes, because at least it's like, okay, he's a nihilist, but I just have to talk to whoever I talk to. But
I tell you, if you don't mind me saying, he's the one good thing that's been consistent throughout the streaming community, and he still continues to be there. So I think you should be grateful to him.
Well, I'm in a way grateful to all the people who take an interest in what I do. So,
but you have to admit that Conops is the sanest out the lot of you.
I said that a few days ago.
Oh,
maybe
good.
Yesterday, even.
Oh, good. Did what, to him or to somebody else?
Yeah, I think to him. It was on a stream to him. I think Jen was there.
Oh gosh. Right. So, well, no, it's good you're still going. I did say you're consistent. So let's go back to what Mike was saying. This is what you're saying. Whether this is a manufactured crisis or organic, I'm convinced that the godless evildoers will use the situation to garner more control and instill a more toxic culture of subordinates into the societies over which they rule. So what he's saying is that if it all goes to hell, then the money people, the bankers, will find another reason or another way to rule. I'm not so sure. He says, I'm willing to bet that the crisis is now the pretext for the market crash that was overdue. Now the global merchants and speculators can evade blame and revolution because they can point the finger at Corona. I believe we will look back on this current crisis the way we look back at 9/11 and the world wars. Behind the official narrative lurks the bankers and the money masters.
He's blaming the Jews.
Well, that's good. We've been speaking for 46 minutes, and after a rocky start, we've seemed to have achieved a flat road, and it's taken us 47 minutes to mention that J word, which is good going. No, it's good. Normally, it's 4 seconds with these types of streams. But do you want to comment on what he's saying? Basically, that it's possible that the J's are behind it.
Well, it's all the stuff that we're not supposed to do that we do, and obviously all the people who condone it or practice it will be kind of responsible for this. I mean, if you are of the religious view that misfortunes are sent to punish us for, So if we've been promoting gay marriage and all the things that we know are technically sins, mortal sins, deadly sins, then I guess there's a whole bunch of us that deserve to be punished.
Yeah, I mean, and
Gentile, not just Jews, not just Gentiles, but anyone who's done any of those things that they know they shouldn't do. And really, we have 5 world religions, and I think they kind of tell us not to do these things that we do.
Yeah. So then he says, is it any wonder Jesus gave us a choice? The choice is we either serve God or Mammon, the god of money, which isn't real at all, or we serve God, which is the reality from whom all truth emanates. I think that sums it up. We've basically got a binary choice. We follow God or we don't, really. And if you don't follow God, you end up building towers and doing silly things. The consequences of possibly could be this virus and things like that. It's another chance to start again. The thing is with this, nobody knows and nothing can be proven. But don't you find it interesting that already the conspiracy theories are being let out, and everybody's conspiracy theory suits their political narrative, i.e. the Jew haters will blame the Jews, etc.
I was kind of hoping for a bit more leadership from the religious community, but they seem just as confused and frightened with nothing much to offer. I mean, apart from, we'll get through this and, keep praying and whatever. But I was thinking there should be even a religious solution to all this.
No, I agree. I agree. And even for the individual, a religious solution for the individual. And then if you have 30 million people or 50 million people who are all tuned in, then that in itself can create an opposite energy to what has maybe created this virus. I mean, the thing is, though, it's too late because it's already in motion. So the damage is done. And it will...
Well, the plague might abate if perhaps, we showed a form of remorse or repentance. But people are still pointing the finger at each other, China at America, America at China. It's very childish. It's not going to help. What's the point of, you get the plague and you say, oh, it's from Central Asia, you're bad people, and, that kind of thing. It's like, nobody wants to get the plague, and if they could have prevented it, I'm sure they would have.
Question for you, dear Claire. I hope you haven't, but I read some things about, I think it was in America, where Chinese Asian people were experiencing racism on the streets for this virus. Obviously, I presume you haven't received anything like that as such when you've been walking to the shop to get your chicken thighs?
Nope. No, I've been fortunate, which is not to say that, it can't happen. I think a lot of white people have been quite unpleasant to each other while they fight each other for loo rolls and other things at supermarkets. So I don't think I won't take it personally. And no, nobody has been picking on me
Yeah.
because of
Okay.
that. And
Well,
then I don't
I,
go
I,
out much. But if I did,
I,
perhaps there
mm.
was more of it. I don't know.
So do you just pop out now and then to get your food, and that's really it,
Oh,
isn't
yes, I
it?
mean, that's what I do anyway. I don't exactly, I'm not an outdoorsy sort of person. I don't feel compelled to, you know, go
Well,
out and about for the fun
I
of
was,
it.
I was speaking to my one of my friends in London, and he was saying about the lockdown. He was disgusted, and he was saying, "I can't go out now. I can't go to restaurants, cinemas," and he rattled off all of this stuff. And I said, like, "When's the last time you went to the cinema?"
Ah, yes, just
Yeah,
because you're told you can't do it, it makes you want to
yeah,
do it. And um, well, Liz was telling me the story about her friend who um, you've heard of panic buying, and he was
yeah.
basically a panic pub going thing. It's like they're going to close the pub, so they're going to close the pub, so I've got to go tonight. I've got to go tonight, or I won't be able to go for God knows how many weeks or months. So he panic went to the pub, and I guess he's got his supply of panic pub going.
Gold, yeah. Well, I've got another story for you. I was chatting to my friend, and he's sensible man. He's a teacher, um, 3 children, and all stuff like that. Science teacher, as in chemistry and physics and stuff. And he said to me the other day, and he's a quite calm fellow, and he said this thing with toilet rolls. He said, I don't understand what the problem is. He said, what we've agreed to do, and this is not, it sounds a bit unhygienic. He says, but we just buy on the normal toilet rolls. And then what we'll do is do what we've done when we've gone on holidays to countries that, he says, we have flannels in a box, and we use clean flannels as toilet rolls, and there's a special box you get. You put them in there, and every day you wash them, put them in the washer. It's what women used to do with nappies in the 60s and 70s. You used to have white woolen nappies.
Yeah,
And then
people would wash nappies, and to even more primitive times, women would use rags when they're
yeah,
menstruating.
but he said how much people in India be looking at us like the country could get wiped out. Millions of people could die, and we worried about toilet rolls. We worried about humiliating ourselves by having to use cloth or rag or, God
Or
forbid, worse.
newspaper, or
Yeah,
leaves, or
yeah.
stones.
No, exactly. I mean, that's my point. That's why the hysteria, which is what I was chatting with Liz about, is the hysteria from this is laughable, and that isn't to undermine the seriousness of it, and things like that. And also, as well, which I know you'll find interesting. I think we might have communicated on it yesterday. Was I've got a friend who's a care worker in Brighton. Eastbourne, which obviously is a town where old people go to die, really, Elephant's Graveyard. And this care worker, was saying that, and she wasn't clamoring for applause and everything, but she said, the NHS staff get, they don't demand it, but they get all of this, it's almost like orgasmic hysteria, like tears from the public. Oh, NHS, NHS, And there are people, she said, like me, who do it just as an important a job. Drivers or people, policemen, so whatever, like electricians or.
Essential services. I mean, I think people kind of know what is essential in our COVID times. Delivery workers are essential, obviously.
But
Postmen, and yeah.
yeah,
So
I mean that's it. And when these people, doctors and nurses, signed up for it, it's not like they weren't aware of the possibility, in much the same way, of soldiers going to war, or a boxer gets in the ring and he gets hit on the head, and he cannot turn around and say, this isn't supposed to happen. you know, and he cannot really expect applause for doing what he's actually volunteered to do.
I suppose it's I don't know, a way of showing gratitude, and maybe a kind of a kind of insurance that you get treated well by an NHS worker were you to get it. You know?
I think you've nailed it. I really have trouble getting this right, but I think look. The gratitude is there. I've been to hospital a few times for stupid things, and I'm always grateful. But it's the hysteria. It's almost like, please be there for me, please, or something. Like, it's the hysteria of some of the public. And I mean, these clapathons, 8 o'clock on Thursday night, opening the windows to clap. You know, I mean, there was nurses online just saying, like, stop doing that. It's just silly. You know, we do our jobs. The nurses were saying it's cringy. And the public running around screaming and crying about them. I find it bizarre. It's just like,
I mean, we are in you know, a time of mass hysteria now, basically. And
but on the
sorry.
On the positive side for you, and this is really good news, that because of the limitations on going out, I've been in the house on YouTube, and from that I've actually got back onto your site, and from that you're speaking to me today. So I think you could be grateful for that.
For what? Sorry?
For the coronavirus has meant that I'm housebound, which has meant that I've gone onto YouTube, which has meant that I've been connected to you again, which means that you've got the opportunity to be in the presence of greatness again.
Well, I was wondering if you had anything new to say.
Look, I've never had anything new to say. You know that. You're not going to get anything new out of me.
But
Listen,
it's interesting that you you know, said we were all trash, and now you're back again because
no, hang on, whoa. If you want to get, I mean, I'm happy to talk about it. I don't remember saying that you were all trash.
You were kind of saying that.
Kind of. So already you're changing your tune.
I can you know, look up words, but obviously you've changed your mind.
I said no, I haven't. I mean, let me explain. I said that the whole energy of the whole thing is going to capitulate, and it's going to eat itself up from the inside. I said to you, people will start jumping off like rats from a sinking ship. I came back on the other day, and surprise, surprise, Jay was correct. Virtually everybody has disappeared. Is that correct?
No, I don't think about people having disappeared. There's some new people. People are not quite behaving in the same way that they did. The algorithms are different. Everybody's seen a significant loss of viewing figures, including Luke. I don't know, but I mean, people still need to talk about what's on their mind. So
yeah, we are, and also as well the not so much the subject matter, but more so the whole, like, spending 5 hours talking or listening to people who are all finger pointing. It's them, it's that, it's them, it's that. Yeah. Okay, and then it just doesn't go anywhere. I mean, Eliot's a good example of a person of good, I think, good standing, good grounding, intelligence, and you know, he can dip in and dip out, but doesn't get involved in the, you know, having to prove to everyone and the ego personas, and you know, and that the whole stuff.
That's got a full-time job.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's why he's probably not one of the normals on here. I mean, if you run through the people that you speak to, I mean, how many of them have got a full-time job? I'd say 5%.
Yeah, and the point is that I guess most of the alt-right are marginalized people who nobody takes seriously. It's you know, it's just the demographics of the alt-right.
But sure, I mean, look, I haven't been on it, but even when you use that term now, the alt-right, isn't that something from like 3 years ago or 2 years ago or something?
Oh, I mean, they call themselves the dissident right, but you know, it's the same thing. You can give yourself a posh name, but people kind of know. You know, you can call a dustman that can call himself a
I'll
what?
tell you what. One person who I always had time for was Alex Woodrow. Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around.
And is he still on your side?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good, because I know that Vance has taken off, hasn't he?
Well, he comes on my streams, and so in a way, nothing much has changed.
But you're continuing. I mean, nothing's changed except that he's not a secular Christ anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not fair enough. I'm finding out what's going on. What about Grandalf and Brundle and people like that?
Well, Gandalf now Brundle now calls themselves Ricardo Williams, and I seem to. He seems to pop up in a chat of Luke, and he's made up with Luke. You may have noticed that before you went away.
Yeah, yeah.
So. And Gandalf we still can't get out of Jen what happened to Gandalf. She doesn't like talking about it.
Well,
so we don't know. We don't know what's happened.
Gandalf might have woke up. He might have seen the light. I mean, that's possible. I think it's good. Brundle or Ricardo is getting on with Luke again. I don't think Brundle or Ricardo kind of got over that falling out. He was hurt by it, but also what he had to do was hang around you, then hang around Jen, which was the lowest of the lows, and kind of skirt around in places that he didn't really want to be. And he can't really go back to Luke's because it's done. And also Luke's gone downhill a lot, but I think that he's on decent terms. It's not a bad thing for him, Duvid, how's Duvid?
He was talking to JF. Jen was talking to JF. So yeah. So I mean, it's the JF Duvid COVID talk was quite interesting in that JF agreed about he's one of those people who has declared in favor of herd immunity, because a lot of people don't quite dare say that. I mean, Duvid certainly hasn't said he's in favour of herd immunity, and Jen won't say one way or the other. But I came out early for herd immunity.
Well, it's not an easy thing to say, but the question is, I mean, herd immunity, but when it hits your parents, how is that going to...
But you can't just say, herd immunity for everyone but my parents. It's like you have to assume you might be the one to go. So. And Christine Ramsey, in a way, has been quite useful, because I did my ranking system, and she said, ho, you haven't excluded yourself from this list. Ho. So I felt good. I mean, I wasn't intending to exclude, me from that list. I wasn't even thinking of myself. It's like, obviously the over 80s would have to go. And then, if you want to lower the age, then those who've enjoyed their retirement for at least 5 years, or, if you have to even thin the numbers, then it would be, people who've just retired, they have to go. I don't know. This is how I would rank it. I know people will scream at me, but I mean, how else?
Look. I know you're not being nasty but it's almost like how much money and time is spent on keeping people alive. I mean,
Yeah, and is it worth? It's like, do you want to keep an 80-year-old alive when somebody in their 20s and 30s could be kept alive? And they need the rest, the ventilator or whatever it is that they need. So obviously you have to prioritize, and you have to be rational about it. So, but even among young people, you still have to, thin their numbers too. Maybe, people who will never be able to get a job, maybe these, criminals with convictions as long as your arm, that kind of thing.
I wonder if there was a cutoff point for living, just say 70. People would get things done quicker. I think subconsciously we all think we're going to live forever, but no one thinks. It's only in the last year or something I've thought, I might die one day, and you kind of like you know you're going to, but I meant you feel it. There's a difference between knowing something mentally, but actually like feeling it. And then that's when you get that moment of like, oh fuck, I better like stop wasting my time on these streets. I mean, I've done loads, Claire. I'm not going to go into it, but I've all the energy that I used to waste doing these streams and stuff and getting involved in it, I've plowed into other areas, you know. So I'm sure you'd be happy for me for doing that.
Well, would you like to tell us what you've been doing instead?
No way.
So
That's stupid. I'll tell you offline, but you know, no, but you know, it's what you do with your time and your energy. I mean, for you, you're an activist and you do what you do, and for me, I'm not. But you know, but I don't remember saying that everybody or everything was trash. I remember saying the energy on the whole thing is just like rats, or like rats on a sinking ship, and it will implode. And it looks like I've been correct, even though you're saying it's the algorithms.
No. I mean, if you're talking in terms of, you know, any of us seeing significant success, I think you already know that YouTube will be shadow banning and suppressing our algorithms. So, I mean, I suppose the most efficient way for them to do that would be to lock us into our own echo chambers.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, we've spoken about this as well, and I'm happy to remind you that I've always, you doing what you do is a success within yourself because you're constantly working in the face of adversity, and you carry on doing what you do, and you will. I expect you to be doing it in 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years, and 10 years. And I give you respect for that. You get up on a morning and you put your computer on, you start typing, and you get on it, irrespective of how you feel and what you do, and that in itself is a good quality. I don't know if anybody else is still doing that. From, you know.
Well, I don't seem to have much of a message. It's always, you know, to do with how many viewers you have, and of course, if you're only concentrating on how many live viewers you get and how many new subscribers you get, then of course YouTube's new algorithms will demoralize you, and that is probably why they do it. It's like, yeah, you have to keep talking longer for people to, you know, come to you, and we're gonna, you know, take your subscribers off as soon as they join. We're gonna, you know, not tell you how many people are really viewing your stream, because we're gonna delay it for 10 minutes for you to, you know, think, oh, I can't be bothered, I'll just close the stream down because nobody's even, you know, but they may be, because, you know, it's like, it only says 1, but you've got 2, you know, 3 likes. It's like, well, where did they go? You know, so you don't really know, and I think in a way it's quite, well, if you do have something to say, then say it. Say quickly if you don't want to be, you know, humming and hawing and hoping people, you know, and then you close it down. And if it's any good, people might come later and put a comment on it, and at least that comment is more likely to be recorded than any stupid, you know, post in the chat. You know, which is usually, you know, people talking to each other, and not even paying attention to what you say. So, you know, so if you're easily demoralized, YouTube changing their algorithms to delay the report of how many actual live viewers you have. You know, maybe you have 20, but they're just sort of going to hold it back from you for longer. You know, and not let you see that you've got 20 people watching you, and make you only see, you know, 1 or 0 or 3, or, you know, who knows? I mean, the whole thing could be a psyops. But then, you know, why should it matter? You should have a message, you should say it, and then, you know, leave it.
Yeah, but I'm sure with your principles, whether you have 2 people watching it or 20, I mean, we used to get, which was obviously through you, but, you know, sometimes there'd be 50, 60, sometimes 70 people watching. And I noticed the other night there was like 4, 5, and that did seem incredibly low, even for the...
Yeah, but even Luke, it was like six or 7, you know. and but I mean, it's better for people like Mark Collett, but sometimes you wonder, if there's a particular reason why they let certain people, keep their channels and have their super chats, and people who don't. I don't think it's anything to do with the quality of the content, because it's like, Mark Collett is actually very dull, in my view anyway, because
is he still
with
is
each
he
other.
still doing his weekly chat?
Yeah, he's still doing it, but it's almost unwatchable because it's so boring. Millennial Wolves occasionally produces interesting stuff, or stuff that I feel I want to respond to, but no, my comments will be deleted. But at least he produces that kind of stuff. And yeah, and I mean, lately it's the debates. It's like you're not even debating the right subject, in my view anyway. It's like with Stefan Molyneux and JF, it's like moral nihilism and universally preferable behavior. It's like it's boring and nobody will listen.
It sounds like it sounds like what David and Gandalf would talk about.
It sounds like the Jen and Claire personal impersonal God debate. It's like I couldn't interest you in it because you just didn't care. So it wouldn't have mattered who won the debate because nobody cared.
Well, I mean, look, I'm a simpleton, and I'm happy to say it, but you didn't say at the start of that debate what a personal or impersonal God was. I mean, you're talking to me about definitions of words, and then during this debate, no, I didn't know what a personal God was or is, and I probably still don't, or an impersonal.
Yeah, you don't, but the idea, I'll quickly explain it to you because I mean, people here might as well quickly. So it's really the deist and theist debate. So a theist is somebody who believes in the Abrahamic God, the God that Jews, Christians, and Muslims believe in, and a deist is somebody who said, yeah, God created the universe, but he's no longer around. He doesn't listen to you. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't know your hearts and your minds and won't answer prayers. So that would be the deist view. That this would be Jen's God, right? So in the end, you can only argue about, well, what's the point of believing in a God like that? Believe in the one that knows your hearts and minds and occasionally answers prayers, because otherwise there would be no point to believing in it. And I don't think that point came across at all. So because obviously if you do believe in the Abrahamic God, it's like, well, what about his 10 commandments? What about the Quran? What about his laws? Don't you have to obey them? And then there'll be a lot of uncomfortable questions that you have to answer. You can't just say, oh, I believe in the Abrahamic God, but I'll just do whatever I like.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know about that. I mean, if you look at my external life, it's better now, but over the years, I haven't lived in the way that would have been appropriate to following them principles of the Sermon on the Mount, etc. And there are always consequences, always. And we've argued if I stole something from the shop and managed to escape from the shop, I wouldn't escape from it in the big picture. And yeah, I mean, there's no point in having rules unless you're going to follow them, I guess. And when you don't follow them, there's always consequences, and denial of those consequences leads to insanity.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, it's like, okay, there's the Abrahamic God and you believe in him, then, if you do believe in him, then you have to follow his laws. But if you, or you could, look at it from a certain standpoint. It's like, well, it's 50-50. Nobody can really prove whether God exists or not. And if this is my only life, I would hate to go to my grave not able to do these things that God has said, send me to hell. All that extramarital sex, right?
No, I think, yeah. I think you're great. I think you do what you do. I said to somebody the other day, I'm not afraid of dying, which I'm not, but I'm more afraid of not living whilst I'm alive. meaning living one of them lives where you're just like closed off through fear, depression, and worry, and like lack of confidence and whatever. I mean, you know, if you're alive, you might as well be alive and thrive. And you know,
yeah, but
hence with you're someone. Sorry to be rude. You're someone, irrespective of what comes out your mouth. Like, you're someone who I feel is, if you suddenly won money and went to Hawaii to live there and retire or whatever, you'd still get up and do what you do. You found your niche in the world. Would you agree?
Well, yes. I mean, you know, because I obviously feel compelled to say and do what I do, which I guess, you know, a lot of people don't, and that's why they say I'm mad. But it's like, well, I have to say it because there's no one else to say it, and I don't think I'm wrong. Nobody has proven me wrong, except that, you know, I'm very much in the minority, and so I think. In a way, doesn't matter because you know, you just do what you want to do. I mean, COVID-19 is helpful in making us think. Well, you know, if you were to get it, what regrets would you have? You know, do sort of, oh, I wish I'd done this. I wish I hadn't done that, or whatever. But it's usually people like, oh, I wish I'd done this thing, and now I'm on my deathbed, on the ventilator, blah blah blah, and you know, I can't do any of those things I should have done, and I won't get the chance to do it. I mean, that I suppose is not a situation anyone wants to be in, and I was thinking to myself today that, you know, it's like, you know, assuming we're all going to die. I mean, you know, just assuming, you know, the whole world is going to die. It's like, well, then you know, YouTube and Facebook would have to, you know, lift all the hate speech rules. Yeah, it's like then you have to let everyone say whatever they wanted. That would only be fair. I mean, I'm just saying, assuming everyone in the world, you know,
yeah. Well, when I did the old life coach courses and stuff, one of the questions to ask people, you know, when people would say, I don't know what I do in my life, and is to say, what would you do if there was no fear involved? If you had no fear? And I think if we all got told we had like 3 months to live because of this virus, I think you'd find a lot of people, like, I don't know, singing a song online or whatever, trying to do whatever they want to do. I mean, we all think that we can get it ready next year. We can like get it together next year. But you know, there is a moment where you think, like, I will die one day, and I need to get it together. You know, I think that's happened with me, like over the last 6 months or something, like with certain things. Hence, getting off the streams as well. So that there was kind of a selfish motivation for it, as in wasted time, wasted energy, as well as not liking the way the things had gone. Because there's no point doing stuff if it's not fun or it's not enjoyable or productive. And I thought that as well, that that was going out of it. It was just a lot of hatred and rubbish. And so hence part of the reason.
There is a lot of mental illness in our circles. I mean, let's be frank. It's like, you know, the more you think about it, like, you know, well, they're not quite right in the head. There's something wrong with them. And it's like, you know, in the end, you know, is it in our circles or does it go much, 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 much higher? And, you know, I suspect it does go much, 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 much higher. But, you know, I think a lot of it is that, you know, at least you get to say what you think. And even that is therapeutic.
Do you think you are mad?
No, because nobody has been able to say that, you know, what you believe in, it's not true. How you reason is not logical. It's like the people who say I'm mad can't even reason properly. You know, people like Christine Ramsey and you know, it's like, you know, if you want to prove me wrong, you have to say that. You have to prove that what the thing I believe in is not true, and my reasoning is faulty, and they haven't been able to do that. So no. But what is more frightening is that they're all mad people than they are sane people.
Yeah. what was the catalyst or the event that made Jen relapse and come back to streaming with you? Because when I left a few months ago, she was refusing to even have you on her stream or chat and blocked you. And then I was surprised, or maybe not actually, when I came back on to find that she was streaming with you and her thing seems to have fallen apart. So what happened to her that made her
irresistible? I suppose I'm just irresistible, and I guess if you do something often enough, they'll come back. I guess if you're consistent. I guess.
No, but look, let's look at it like through Jay's eyes. That if her thing was going well, she'd have moved on and kicked on, and it's obviously not.
She's not doing too badly. A week in review is not doing badly at all. She has the same, more or less the same viewing figures. But then the fact that she does it at a certain time on the same day with the same person is in itself helpful.
So what? Obviously, you're still promoting secular Quranism. Have you tried to approach any kind of higher up people or?
Yeah. I've been speaking to Kashiv. I've been speaking to rabbis.
That's good.
And the thing is, I don't think they have an answer. It's like, I've won all the arguments, but it's like I don't have an army to enforce the correctness of my position. So really, it's like, yeah, it can be true, but we'll just ignore you. Your argument may be sound, but we're just going to ignore you. So. But that is really, the fundamental problem. Immoral people who can't even, who won't accept the truth or logic because you don't have the force of violence to make them see things the way you do or make them do what you want them to do. So ultimately, might is right, and there's no point being weakly good because that's not going to get you anywhere because people will just ignore you even though you're right. Which is, I think, the problem of prophets throughout the ages. Because if you think of all the prophets of God, it's like they're only one person. They never had an army. And then you think, well, how did they become prophets? And it's like, they knew they had to refer to the man up there, the man upstairs, who like, well, I'm saying all these things and you're going to ignore me. And when I'm dead and gone, he'll zap you. The man upstairs will tap you and you'll be sorry. But, and remember, I told you so. And that's all you can do, really. But obviously, you would have thought that somebody will think, oh, right, that's so true. This is terrible. I'll fix it at once kind of thing, like when Jonah went to to Nineveh and they did heed his warning, and they did wear sackcloth and ashes, and they did repent, and they were saved. If you remember that story.
No, yeah, but I think the whole thing has gone too far with the world, and I think Elizabeth was saying to me that no, it was Mike that if when this thing does start to rebuild again, a lot of the people who, let's just say, who are building the tower, that they'll have new bricks and new ways of putting stuff back together. So they'll take advantage of the financial crash. Oh, question for you. Sorry, to change tact. How do you think this will affect Trump re-election in November 2020, if there is an election? Have you heard anything about that?
Well, I don't know. Some people say, well, it might even be cancelled. If it gets much worse, because at the moment, the lots of people have got it in America, and that their death rate has not even begun to start. So we don't know. I mean, it could be cancelled. After all, the London mayoral elections have been cancelled. The Olympics have been cancelled. So why not the US presidential elections? We don't know. I mean, it's like we don't know anything. And in theory, anything could happen, including the Prime Minister saying, let's just reverse everything and go back to normal, because if we're all going to die, we might as well die with everybody, going going about their business in the normal way, even as they, pop their clogs. Because, when you think about it, the bubonic plague, were people hiding in their homes? It's like, I bet life went on, and people did try to do whatever they could under the circumstances, because nobody was going to be feeding them if they didn't work. Right?
I saw a video on YouTube about Indians living in trees to self-isolate. That they got a few planks of wood, climbing up a tree, laying the planks, and just basically living in a tree.
Yeah, but they have to come down and poo and wee and get food, right? And then they'll
not necessarily for food. Yeah, you could get food thrown up. I mean, but I mean that's it.
That sounds so crazy. Sorry, I'm just.
No, it is. It is. Sorry for asking you all these questions, but I think there's more in you than what there is in me. OV, what's happening to OV? Are you still doing streams with him or talking to him?
Yeah. I spoke to him a few days ago. So, didn't you hear that?
How is he?
10-hour.
Oh God.
He's all right. He's moved. I think. Yeah, he's moved out of LA,
California. Yeah.
So I guess he must be. I think he said. I don't
Dakota.
know.
He's in Dakota.
I think I asked him and he said no, but I'm not sure now.
Yeah, that means he is. When you did your stream with him, what was he talking about? That's a loaded question. Yeah, that's a rhetorical question.
No, but I did timestamp it, so if you really care, then you can go to Voice of Reason and you'll see it timestamped.
No, I was being what's the word? Implying that he only ever talks about one thing. So I
don't think he. I kind of horrified him by, inviting him to imagine a situation where the Chinese all converted to Judaism.
And what was his response?
I don't know. It was a horrified silence. It's like.
But we had some good. Do you remember the day when OV won the championship competition that we ran? We had the debate. Yeah, I mean, all that was fun. It seemed to be quite. Every week we had events or just different people and the whole thing. And I think that was probably the best times. And
fun times.
Yeah, and I think it's been strange. But so anything else you'd like to talk about? Anything else you'd like to tell me off for? Anything else you'd like to blame me for, or anything else you'd like to tell the listeners about, Claire?
Well, I don't. You probably don't listen to every stream of mine, but I was thinking that. But I will tell you that I'm very disappointed that the one I did on Melanie Phillips, which was yesterday, I think, has so few views, because
35 minutes.
Yeah, it was a
yeah. I do you know what? I tried to watch it and it didn't come up. It wouldn't load.
Oh.
That could have just been the connection. But
Right.
carry on.
I did kind of timestamp it afterwards, so it worked for me. She was talking about anti-Semitism, and I thought you could take the religion, because he was saying, we don't know why they hate us so much, and we try to fit in, and they hate us, and we do our thing, and they hate us, and it doesn't matter what we do, they still hate us, and blah 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 blah. And I thought, no, you haven't got the right explanation. The religious explanation is that Jews were chosen by God to do a certain thing, and it is to promote the no-hide laws, and you haven't been doing that, and because if everyone followed the no-hide laws, all the Gentiles of the world, or most Gentiles in the world followed them, then they would have better government, and then they wouldn't blame the Jews for their bad government, because they always blame the Jews for bad government. So even though Melanie Phillips is Jewish, I don't think she's religious, because she didn't really get the religious explanation of why God chose Jews. Because she was a lefty to begin with, and you can tell from
she used to work at the Guardian, didn't she?
Yeah. This was an interview by Steve Edgington of the Sun. I saw it.
I watched that interview. Yeah, no, I watched it. Yeah, I mean, there are people like her and Steve Bannon. Yeah, I sort of watch bits of stuff, and Nigel Farage has been doing streams from his house, like posts or whatever, 10 minutes.
Yeah, I just saw him today. He was being interviewed by some Aussie, wasn't he?
I didn't see that one, but the thing is with Melanie Phillips, she speaks a lot of sense on a lot of topics, irrespective of her religion or not. I mean, she seems to be a pretty hard, tough, down-to-earth woman. And like many people, they start like you start on the left, you go to the liberalism, and then you come to your senses, and you think you move over to the better side, you know.
Well, I mean, what I think the problem is that people are just sort of doing their own thing, and they don't think they have to cooperate, and therefore, you know, nothing ever happens. It's like, you know, I'm not going to talk to you because of this, and I'm not going to talk to him because of that, and you know, that you have to completely agree with me because before I'll even begin, you know, have a debate with you. And there are people who actually say that, and they don't know, you know, it's like they don't know what they're saying. It's like, how can you expect me to agree with you before you even debate with me? This is crazy, you see. And they seem to think that they have a right to demand that, which is why, you know, there is not any dialogue going on, and that means nothing will get done. We will all be sort of individually saying we have the answer, and no one's message, even though his or hers is better than the others, will get ascendancy, and therefore nothing will be done, and even the really obvious problems that could be avoided or solved won't get solved because people are just competing instead of cooperating with each other to say, you know, you seem to have the most correct answer, even though I don't completely agree with you, you know, that kind of thing. And of course that is actually my biggest problem. You know, because, you know, it's like, who are you? You haven't got enough, you know, that many subscribers. But then you have people with lots and lots of subscribers, and they don't, you know, they don't propose anything new. I mean, what Mark Collett has got, 197,000 or something ridiculous like that. But you know, but they're all, you know, NPCs.
I sent something to my dearest daughter that reminds me of what you're saying, and it was the thing I was reading about Van Gogh online. And what was it? It was something about he was put in the mental asylum again, and he still hadn't sold any paintings, and he knew they were good, and he knew that they would work, but he was frightened that they wouldn't work whilst he was he didn't want to die and sort of see it. And I mean, I personally don't think so, but it may be a case that some of the stuff that you talk about won't be recognized until 50, 100 years time or something. As in a lot of some of your thoughts. I mean, you need to have a broad shoulders to actually take on board a lot of what you say. I certainly have, and I can see beyond it. But I don't think that. Let me give you a good example. The Labour woman who's going to be fighting Keir Starmer for the Labour leadership was on Sophie Ridge Sky News today, and she got asked about the herd immunity and the lockdown and that, and she just started screaming, saying, "It's lives. The only thing that matters is lives." It doesn't matter what happens to everything else. It's just human lives.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know, I you know, on Facebook people talk to me, and it's like, you know, I know a woman who's in favor of herd immunity, but she won't say it because she knows how unpopular it would be. And it's like that message you're reading to me from Mike, you know, saying that he didn't dare speak using his real name or something like that because he doesn't know whether it's going to be scorned or, you know, it's like, no, you have to say it. You have to say it because if you're waiting for somebody else to say it. They're not going to, and everybody will be afraid to say it. And the ones who do will just get knocked down because people will get, will say, "Oh, but nobody thinks like you. You're evil because you said the."
No, but you always quote Keith Joseph, 1974. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But when did people start quoting the Keith Joseph speech from 1974?
Do they?
No, I said when did they?
I don't know. I think I'm the only one, as far as I know.
Right, but they wouldn't quote it till maybe 2010, till what Keith Joseph said in 1974 came to fruition. So things need to get a lot worse before people maybe wake up. Then when people wake up, they'll go, "Oh, that weird woman 50 years ago was saying that. What happened to her?" And then someone will say, "Oh, they put her into an asylum for like Van Gogh, what she was saying." Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you a lot of good people. Cassius Clay is a really good example of somebody who was well ahead of his time in a lot of areas, but he was able to sort of execute it there and then. But there are some pretty good people who it's when musicians as well become they sell loads of records when they die for some reason, and some sell more, but I don't think the world's ready for your views and words.
They don't want it, but I think I've explained it intelligibly anyway, so they kind of get it, even though they don't like it, and I think that's the best I can do. At least they know what I'm saying, even though they don't like it, and that's why they react in such a violent way. Just telling each other, "Don't let her on your streams," because that's basically what Mark Holland and Millennial Rose and that lot are doing. It's like, yeah, we know exactly what you're saying, but it's a silly idea. Our idea is better. Let's fight for elections. Let's talk about repatriation. And it's like, it's the same old. You haven't changed your tactic, you haven't changed your message. You're still thinking that you're going to vote your way into power. But as long as you get the super chats, you don't care. But really, the message needs to be focused on the political establishment, and of course they're not listening. But maybe eventually, some of it will come through. I don't know if you noticed what Richard Spencer was saying about Islam in two. Well, he did it for 2 streams, and he basically forgot about it, which I kind of suspected would happen.
I don't. I think a few months ago, before I came around to my senses, he was saying that there was some good things in it, but we have to admire them because of they stick together or something.
Yeah. So recently, I think in the last month or so, he was saying that with Ed Dutton and Keith Woods. It was in that stream, in 2 streams with the 3 of them in it. And then he just started, and then he's forgotten about it. But what I'm also trying to say is that, even if you do say the transgressive thing, you have to repeat it, or people will just forget that you ever said it.
No, that's a good point. Can I just going off topic a bit before we close down? Just a question in a general way. How are things in Malaysia regarding family members? And is it the same?
Very strict, very strict lockdown. People get fined. Quite strict, much stricter than here, I have to say.
Yeah, I saw some things in China and Hong Kong or Thailand or wherever it was, and they I think on an aeroplane, the stewardesses were wearing like moon suits, so they were like fully covered. Have you travelled anywhere in the last few months? Have you been in the UK?
Oh no, I haven't travelled anywhere. I haven't wandered far, and I don't particularly want to. And
Is that because you love the English people so much?
Well, I think I do, because I'm saying all this stuff and I know they don't like it, but, well, nobody else is telling them.
Well, I think it's possible that we were maybe the only country that had the liberal scope to allow you, to welcome you in. And you've come here and you've decided that you're so grateful that you're going to give us secular Quranism. That's correct, isn't it?
Well, it is the solution to the problem. I mean, nobody wants a sort of horrible, surgically invasive medical procedure performed on them. But if it's the only procedure that would save their lives, then I guess they better take it. And of course, they'll just say, "Oh, we're not sick. We're fine. We're not sick. We're fine." So anyway, I'm the only person doing it. Nobody will argue against it. I mean, I have asked nationalists, what they think religion is for, and they don't want to engage. They don't want to answer. I've got weird answers like, there's no purpose to Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
There's no purpose to religion. It's like, well, really, I mean, there's so much denial and mental illness. I mean, really, I often think that I must be the only sane person, in the Western world. But that doesn't make me feel any better, because it actually makes the whole thing even more hopeless. But I guess
would you say? Okay, here's a question for you, and please don't close the stream down. Would you say that secular Quranism is more unpopular than Corona-19, or is it on the same level?
Well, actually, I've made a few memes equating secular Quranism with COVID-19. So I got the joke before you did. I got the joke before you did, and actually, I see it as an opportunity. All this, well, it'll have to get worse before it gets better. This is one of the ways that is getting worse. And obviously I have to make my calls early, like herd immunity, and everybody screaming at me, including Connaught, saying I don't care. And it's like, I have to say these things early and stick my neck out.
Well, for that, you can say I do care. You can say I do care, which is why I employ strict measures. It's just that you're not driven by your feelings.
Well, the thing is, it wouldn't matter what race it is. It's like, for any society in the world, if there's a scarcity of medical resources, you have to prioritize. My way of prioritizing would be along the right lines, because you're not going to, give it to elderly, frail people who have already lived their lives. You give it to young people who might survive, in order to become productive citizens of tomorrow, or continue with their, productiveness now.
I read this morning that ventilators in the States have gone from $25,000 to $40,000 each. Now, forgive my ignorance, but what is a ventilator? Is that a machine that pumps oxygen via a mask into the person and keeps them alive, or is it just an oxygen?
I don't know how. A ventilator is a machine that makes your lungs work or something. I'm not really sure, but obviously.
I was amazed if it's $40,000 and they're looking at like how many million people. Jesus Christ! I mean, it's my parents were kicked out of Cyprus. They were on their third holiday of the year. I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Spending my money. They were booted out, and they've got like a big, like, not a gated fence, but what it is, it's a big around their house, and they're really like, they've asked me to drop some things off for them, but I've got to throw them over the fence type thing. Like,
in case you're contaminated with COVID.
Yeah, but as my dad said, because he has a sense of humor, he said, no, it's not that. It's just that I don't want to give it to you. But we've had a few jokes about because of this COVID-19, it means that, we won't be able to see each other face to face. And he said, good. So
we don't have to worry about giving you tea then when you call.
Yeah, like but it's great for family. I mean, how many families do we know that where they don't get on and don't particularly like each other? So with this COVID-19, it's wonderful in that, like, thank God I didn't want to go and visit the old cow or whatever, and it, you can happily consciously have a few month away from the guilt or whatever, thinking I don't need to visit.
text and phone call. You don't actually have to. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I mean, I could have, I might have had the desire to come and, visit you, and I mean, I'm sure you'd like that, but we cannot now because of this disease. So, long may it continue.
Yeah. All these convenient, oh, I'd love to have you over for dinner. You must come and stay sometime when all this is over. Yeah.
But that's the thing as well. If you look on social media, the most common used term is when it's over. People are saying, yeah, let's meet up when it's over. Let's do this when it's over, or let's do that when it's over. But, there'll be a bit of embarrassment. So, okay, well, Claire, just what's your next move with streams? Are you doing streams after this, or have you got anything lined up for the following week?
I'll have to play it by ear, unless I have to say. Actually, I woke up this morning thinking I have so much to say, and then it's like I got distracted and it's all gone out of my head now. Yeah, I think I should really do it first thing in the morning and get it over and done with. But I don't know. The mood comes and goes, and maybe it will crystallize.
Did you like the photograph that I sent you a few days ago with the swimming one with I survived AIDS, COVID-19 and secular Quranism? Did that bring a smile to your face?
Well, secular Quranism isn't here yet, so you don't know if you'll survive it. It hasn't been adopted. It's just an idea in my head, so I would like to say, you might not survive it if it were fully implemented, might you? I don't know.
No, but you laughed. I mean, the purpose of it was to make you smile. That was the and you laughed then. So I think that's a good note. It's taken 1 hour 47 minutes for.
I'm sure I was laughing a bit earlier.
Oh, yes, a little bit.
Never mind. But yeah, I mean, I'm relaxed about the whole thing, really. But before we go, it's like, if you got it, what would you do? And I think the idea is that, they say, well, don't come to hospital, don't go to your doctor's surgery, self-isolate.
As I said to my friend, the one that you sort of met in London, she said to me, what will you do if you'll get it? And I just said, go to bed and catch up on my porn. I mean, what else is it to say? There's nothing else to do.
Ring 111, and they'll give you, advice you're not going to follow anyway. So, it's like, do you want to die in hospital or do you want to die at home? If you had a choice, if it was as stark as that, So,
I think the thing is keeping mentally sane and above it when it's going on, like in terms of the hysteria and the whole promotion of it. One
of the things that Rabbi Misraki said was that people will really start killing themselves if their Wi-Fi goes. They really will kill themselves.
Well, it's like toilet roll, isn't it? I mean, just before we came on air, I read on Sky News that there were 220 deaths today.
Mm-hmm.
Although that was the figure from yesterday, and the day before was 270. So there's 50 less deaths today, but the headline wasn't like, better news, 250 less deaths. It was COVID-19 wipes out 220 British people or whatever. So the opportunity, and oddly enough, Bill Gates said that. Bill Gates got put on CNN, and he was got brought on to basically like slag Trump off. It was with that silver-haired guy, and he was saying, no, there's some good things that are going on with various things, and they hated it. That they were trying to get him to like paint it as devastating, and we're going to get wiped out. But there's certain times when the numbers aren't as bad, or certain companies are saying we're going to make ventilators, and a lot of that's not being reported. Because
they want to keep us frightened, I suppose.
No, but that's it. I'm not frightened at all. I'm I'm good as ever. So, well, listen, I'm going to head off. I'm going to head off out for an hour. It's been really good talking to you, and I'm glad you got. Yeah, I'm glad you got over your nerves at the start and managed to calm down. And we had a.
I don't feel we talked enough about the theology, but never mind.
Are you saying you want to do another stream with? You're saying you want to do another stream with me?
Well, I wanted to talk about the theology of the idolatry, but you know, we've done that. Really, it'll just be the same old shit.
Well, I'll leave this one with you. I'm open to something if it's worthwhile and fun. But when you talk about the theology of idolatry, I can say that the idea and practice of idolizing something that doesn't serve you well is insane, and the real cost of idolizing something which doesn't serve you is that you block out the space for the good stuff.
You make an excellent point, Jay. You're wasting your energy worshipping idols when you should be directing your mind and your energy towards, you know, doing
God
the
or better things.
Yeah.
Well, listen, let's leave it there. But while we're kind of getting on a little bit, mediation appears to have worked. So good luck with your next stream, and there's a good chance I'll be tuning in. And yeah, it's been good talking to you again. So let's catch up another time.
Take care and keep well, Jay, and maybe speak to you soon.
All right.
Whenever.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.